Hi, my name's Peter Byrne, and I'm the founder and owner of Castle Painting Limited. Each of our videos is designed to teach you more about the painting process so you, the consumer, can make educated decisions about painting your home or office, and more importantly, deciding who will be a good fit or won't be a good fit for your particular job. Today, we'll continue our series about interior painting, and we're going to talk about trim painting and ceiling painting. In the last video, we talked about wall painting, and you should watch that if you haven't seen it. But the thing that often gets overlooked is what's involved with painting trim and ceilings. So first of all, let's talk about ceilings. We use a particular paint for ceilings that is not very durable, but is not very reflective. In other words, it's a very dull finish. And what that does is it hides the defects in your ceiling. A ceiling is a big flat surface that goes throughout the whole home. And a lot of times there's a window that's bringing light that reflects off the ceiling. It's very difficult if you have drywall. That stuff is very heavy and you hang it, you nail it up to the ceiling, and it can sag over time. So when you are painting ceilings, you want as much as possible a cosmetic effect. It's like ladies who want to hide any, oncoming wrinkles will use face powder, which will make all of that disappear and makes you look 20 years younger. I probably should be using it too, but I don't. So that is how we paint ceilings, a very flat finish or a very matte finish. And it's not a durable paint, but it's perfect for its purpose. Now, in terms of the color of ceilings, most of the time we'll do white. The paint itself is called ceiling white, and most of the time that's what we use. It increases the amount of light in the room. If you have lamps, it reflects the light that the lamps create, and it brightens things up. Sometimes a designer will decide to use a lighter version of the color that's on the walls. So there's less of a stark transition between the walls and the ceiling. So you might use what's called a half tone, which is half the strength of paint that was used on the walls on the ceiling. The only problem with that is you're adding more tint into the mix, and a little bit more tint means a little bit more reflectivity of the paint and less of a matte finish. So mostly in my home, and what I recommend to people is paint the ceilings flat white. Now, when should you paint ceilings? The very best time to paint your ceiling is before you move in, because obviously you're painting on a ceiling, you are trying to get all the paint to stay on the ceiling, but some of it is going to drip. So you have to cover everything in the room. An empty room is much easier to cover than a room that's full of furniture. In fact, any paint job is easier when the room is empty than it is when the room is full of furniture. And I'm sure you can imagine all the reasons for that. There's more room to work and there's less risk. You have to cover everything so carefully when it's full of furniture, whereas if the room is empty, you just have to cover the floors and there's nothing to worry about. So when you move in or before you move into your house is the best time to paint ceilings. Now, ceilings do suffer from wear and tear, and this happens in areas, particularly in the kitchen and the bathroom. So in the kitchen, when you cook, there's always some degree of smoke that happens from cooking. That's why you have a fan that vents all the fumes and smoke outside. Some of that hits the ceiling. With time, it starts to yellow the ceiling. So you have to use a sealer on that, a primer sealer paint, and then a top coat of the flat ceiling paint, which is going to bring the kitchen ceiling back up to its original condition. Bathrooms are another story. We strongly recommend that you have a good bathroom fan and that you test it from time to time. The way to test a bathroom fan is you take 1 square of toilet paper, you turn the fan on, and you hold the toilet paper up to the fan, and it should stick to the fan and try to suck into the fan. That's enough pressure from your fan to get the moisture out of the bathroom from showers and so on. If you have a window in the bathroom, crack the window open for 20 minutes or so after a shower. Get that steam and get the humidity out of the bathroom. If you've ever paid attention when you're having a shower, you'll see that the water vapor tends to rise and sit on the ceiling. And if you don't get rid of that water vapor, you're going to get mildew in the house. So you want to get rid of that water before it can mildew, but it happens. And that's the second reason, the second area of the house that should have painting for the ceiling, which is the humidity and mildew that occurs in bathrooms. So we also have paints that have chemicals in them that will kill mildew, and we use those in kitchens and bathrooms. And we can use a sealer as well on the bathroom ceiling to stop any problems with that mildew. And those are the two key areas that you should always paint the ceiling. Now, when would you paint the living room or the bedroom ceilings? Well, they do just dull down with age, and a lot of times your kitchen doesn't just end at the kitchen. It's one big plane that goes out throughout a large part of the main floor. So you want to paint corner to corner on ceilings. Same as walls. You don't want to touch up part of a wall because it was a little mark. Usually that will just leave a different kind of mark, which is a mark made by fresh paint. So it's always best to do a whole wall, corner to corner, top to bottom, side to side. That's the ins and outs of painting ceilings. It's a simple job, but it's mostly prep work. If there's a lot of furniture in the house, if there's no furniture, less prep work to get ready to paint. Now, the next question that comes up is, what about the baseboards? So baseboards do take a beating. They're there actually to protect the walls. If people are vacuuming, they hit the walls sometimes and they hit the baseboard. And those baseboards get dings and the paint gets chipped and they look dingy after a while. So painting the baseboards is a great idea. When you paint the baseboards, you will usually notice that the baseboards come right up to the doorway, and then the door frame begins. And that door frame is typically painted the same color as the baseboards. If you paint the baseboards and you don't paint the door frame, you'll see it. You'll see a slight difference. Even if you specify the same paint, no two cans of paint are 100% the same. So you'll see a slight variation, and it's best to paint the baseboards and to paint the door frame. And now that brings us to the door. So it's the same situation. Now you've painted the door frame, but not the door. I recommend that if you're going to paint the baseboards, paint the door frames, and paint the doors and the windowsills all at the same time. And this can be budgeted for. We can price it out separately for you in your job, so you want to know how much that costs. But it lasts for years and years. You might be able to do the trim and the ceilings every other paint job for the walls. So you could paint your whole home, apartment, or office, ceilings, walls, doors, and everything. And then in a few years, when you want to change the color, just paint the walls. But to get everything in good shape to start with, paint it all. And the next time, which is going to be up to you when you paint it, how many years are going to go by. Maybe you change the carpets and the furniture, and now the colors of the walls from before no longer coordinate with what you've got. So you have to make those decisions as to how often to paint. But typically, every other time you can paint the ceilings, and every other time you can paint the doors, the trim, the windowsills, the baseboards. And very much the number one color for all of that stuff is a white, either just a stark white out of the can or a slightly off white, a warmer white, a creamy white. But rarely, except for in the 70s and 80s, did we see where people were painting the trim purple and the walls pale green or something. It's a tradition that has gone on for hundreds of years that the trim is painted in white, the ceilings are painted in white, and the walls can be whatever color you want. So hopefully that tells you something about trim and wall painting. In terms of the cost, It's very difficult to put a dollar value on it because every home has a different amount of trim, a different number of doors. Some homes have crown moldings around the ceiling. There's all different factors. But again, this can be priced out for you in the process of getting your free in-home or in-office estimate. We can detail everything however you want so you can make a decision. The purpose of this video is really to answer your questions about what's involved. Should you paint the ceilings? Should you paint the trim? How often should you do it? And why would someone paint those things? So if you have any other questions about ceiling or trim painting, you can send us an email or call, fill in the form on our website. If you see this video on YouTube, you can just put it in the comments and we will answer it for you, or try to make a video that gives you specifically the information that you're asking for. So stay tuned. We will have more videos for you on the subject of painting. Thanks.